This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
On the Track is a web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
So what's in today's show, Mr. John?
Well, Hennis, this week we're meeting somebody that I've known for about 30 years, but never actually spoken to before. He's my favourite cryptozoological artist, and his name is Bill Rebsamen.
I really like the old credits.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's John Downs and welcome to another episode. What? Something strange is happening over there. Apparently we've been transported back to the north of England in the 1970s when little boys cycled up hills to deliver the Orvis wheat germ.
Right, well, we know that north is best, don't we? Alright, we do. Amos, north is best. It is. It is, Barry. North is best. South is a load of cobblers. But what about the Midlands? That's sort of in between the Janey South and the rock hard North. Aye, the Midlands. Think about the Midlands is it isn't as soft as shite like the South and full of Nancified Tories. It's just boring and dead ugly. A bit like a Tory MP. But the North is the best.
Shall we try that again, ladies and gentlemen? As I think I just told you just now, my name's John Downs. I'm the director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do know, but I very much hope some of you are going to be newbies rather than oldsbies, and I'm not sure that oldsby is a proper word, but who cares, neither's newbie. What I was going to say is that every Wednesday evening at about 6:30 for about a quarter of an hour, and every Saturday afternoon at 3 for about twice that, we bring you a mishmash, a mélange, a miscellany, a miscellaneous pile of things, and all sorts of other things beginning with M, of hard science, weird shit, and surreality. And if you want to know what surreality is, I think we should ask him.
Well, I don't really know what surreality is, but I think it might have something to do with chocolate.
We have a very interesting interview for you today. Before we go there, I crave your indulgence for an appeal for something very important. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's John Downs. I'm the director of an organisation called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, which is the largest mystery animal research group in the English-speaking world, and we like to think the best. We've been going now for over 30 years, and in those 3 decades we have sometimes carried out campaigns to try to raise money for equipment or for expedition expenses. But one thing we never do is to raise money for ourselves, because money is nowhere near as important as the search for expanding the boundaries of human knowledge, which is, at the risk of sounding horribly self-important, what this organisation is all about. However, we are a family in a very real sense, and there have been times over the years that we have made appeals to raise money for members of the CFZ family who are down on their luck. And this time I want to tell you about my friend Lars Thomas. He was one of the earliest members of the Centre for Fortean Zoology back when, in 1994, we started publishing our magazine, Animals and Men. And I have known him therefore for 30 years this year, which seems to be a remarkable length of time. He has recently become very ill, and he's in a hospital, partially paralysed and not able to work or indeed do anything very much. And so Richard Freeman phoned me the other night and suggested that we do a crowdfunding exercise to try and raise some money for him while he is in such a dire straits. And so I had a word with Miss Guinevere, and she went and set it all up. And you can read all about the appeal here at this link. What I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen, is that Lars is a very nice, sweet and kind man who's been very kind and generous to all of us over the years, and it's about time, I think, that the CFZ paid something back. Please dig deep in your pockets and do whatever you can to support this very worthwhile appeal. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's part 2 of our interview with crypto artist supreme Bill Rebsamen.
I lived like an hour and 20 minutes away from where this occurred, and I don't find out about it till John Kirk in British Columbia contacts me and says, "Hey, you need to check this out. It's in your backyard."
That's the way the universe works, I'm afraid.
Yes, yes. And at the time, my son was about the same age I was. I was 10 years old when my older sister and her husband took me to see The Legend of Boggy Creek. It was showing in the theaters. I believe Charles Pierce had like people in vans taking these film reels to local theaters, because he could make a buck. That's one thing about Charles B. Pierce. He could make a buck. I think he hired, the whole town of Fouke, Arkansas. He hired them and their families to actually be in the movies. So that movie influenced me greatly. I was already, at the time, I was kind of a latchkey kid. My mom was widowed, and she would, when I was older, it was a different day and age back then, but I got so bored at my grandmother's house. There were no kids to play with. I was about 10, 11 years old, and begged her to take me to the public library instead of going to my grandmother's house. And I'd pack a lunch and I'd hang out at the library while my mother worked. This was during the summer. She was, helping with the summer baseball program. She was a nurse there at the college. And so I would spend days there in the library, and I'd, research all the animals I wanted. And after I saw The Legend of Boggy Creek, I'm like, okay, let's read about, Bigfoot. Let's check this out. And of course, right next to Bigfoot, you would find other cryptids. And, I have the wonderful sea monster book. I've got it up here too. This is behind me here this is my old school bookshelf filled full of my treasure trove of cryptozoology books. And I'm proud to actually have several I've done the book cover art for.
That must be really satisfying.
I just, I don't think about it a whole lot anymore, but every now and then I'll go over there and look. I'm like, man, this is just so amazing. And a friend of mine told me one time that my spiritual gift, John, is being in the right place at the right time. So that has proven true in my life. Let me find this one book. I just love it. And I don't have the dust cover for it, but this is a pictorial history of sea monsters. I don't know if you've ever
No.
on this one.
Who's it by?
I don't have my reading glasses on. Sweeney.
I don't know him.
Oh, it's just wonderful. I mean, all this great stuff. And this was in our public library, and I eventually found it online. I did not steal it from our public library. But yeah, this is. Oh, I see here I've got a, somewhere I've got a file for the dust cover, and it was sent to me by June O'Neill. I was talking to June, and I said, I've got this great book. The author is James B. Sweeney, and it's just a wonderful book. And that's, like I say, I've been on some Bigfoot field, reconnaissance stuff in the middle of the night down in LaFleur County. But I would love to sometime, check out a lake monster, come over there and visit Loch Ness, or who is the young lady you had on here a few weeks ago, the champ expert?
Katie.
She was fascinating.
Oh, she's brilliant. Wonderful research.
Yes. And I would love to, like I say, make a trip up to Maine to visit Lauren. And maybe if I find out if she does some charter expeditions or something, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. Once again, take my money now.
Well, she lives in Florida most of the year. My American geography is terrible. I don't know how far you are from Florida.
Oh, it's about the same as driving to Maine, probably, because Fort Smith, if you fold a map of continental North America, United States together, Fort Smith is probably right in the middle. We are right on the border of Arkansas and Oklahoma.
You're not going to be popping down to see her for a cup of tea anytime soon.
Yeah. I'll drink to that right now.
But what I'll do, remind me, and when we finish the interview, I'll introduce you on Facebook, because she's a sweetie pie.
Oh, yes, I would sign up for a day-long boat trip out on that lake. I just think that'd be fascinating. I can't say I'd be interested to know the ratio of cryptozoological researchers that have actually had an encounter with a cryptid. I can't say I have. Now, I've heard very strange noises right there. We were staked out on a kind of a hot spot there in southern LaFleur County in the Kiamichi Mountains, and I heard things that made me want to leave. And then just a fleeting glimpse of something going across the road, that I had been invited to go down there at one of the eyewitnesses' homes and set up a CCTV surveillance system around their house. And on the way back, it was just a cloudy, rainy day with just fog. And I'm driving, there's a straightaway highway, little country highway leading out of the mountains a few miles away from this property. And there's a creek running for miles along this little country road. And of course, I'm watching the creek. I should be looking at the road in front of me, but instead I'm kind of watching the creek, and I look up just in time. Of course, it's foggy, and I see a dark, upright shape stepping up into the hillside, and it's all just dense trees and briars and undergrowth. And I get up to where I had thought I'd seen it in the road, slowed down, stopped, and I'm looking, and it's like, there's no way something could just disappear into, unless it just dived down into the underbrush and was being still. But your mind tries to fill in the blanks.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, okay, if this was a person, they'd be all tangled up in the underbrush here. They couldn't have gotten that far. I was just right on it. And if I had not been looking at the creek running alongside the road next to me, I would have seen the whole thing traverse from one side to the other. But all I saw was this, just just a few seconds. So have I seen Bigfoot? No. But I saw something I couldn't explain. And that was just a moment that sticks in my mind. But, it's just amazing to me that possibly here, within a little over an hour drive from my house, is one of the greatest zoological discoveries that remains undiscovered. And then of course the argument of, is it a physical, flesh and blood animal? Is it something, an apparition, something I don't claim to know either way. I know people that have, interacted on a physical level, and even shot at these things. So, and that's one thing. I promise you this, John, if you come to Southern Leflore County, you do not want to put on a hairy suit and go running around in the woods when just about every domicile, every house, every trailer, every truck that drives by has a high-powered rifle in it. So, there's that to take into consideration. So is there fraudulent behavior and hoaxes? Sure. But, my son asked me, Dad, what do you think? Do you think there's really, because he was about 13 years old when I was going down there, and I'd take him down there, and there was like a little fishing cabin that we would rent. And I was, wary about, I'm like, you stay where I could see you. So, that kind of thing. But he asked me, Dad, do you really think there's Bigfoot just right down here, just down the road, an hour from where we live? And I'm like, son, when I was your age, I just believed that, people were seeing something. And, and then someone asked Arthur C. Clarke one time, if we were to give you $100 to bet on the existence of the Yeti or the North American Bigfoot, Arthur C. Clarke's answer was that he would bet $40 on the Yeti, $10 on the Bigfoot, and keep the other 50 for himself.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that one kind of stuck with me. I thought, man, what a clever thing to say.
That's a very clever thing. I've always been an admirer of Arthur C. Clarke, both as a researcher and as a writer.
Oh, absolutely. And all those television programs from the 70s, In Search of, Mysterious World, Mysterious Universe. While I was at the library, probably the first books that really caught my attention were all the Alan Landsberg, or is it Landsberg or Lansbury?
Landsberg, I think.
Yes. And of course, he had a lot of the movie productions that would go around to these smaller markets, and the UFO movies and a Bigfoot movie, and then of course the coinciding books. Back in the 70s, you would see these paperback books. It would say the book version of the now motion picture, or whatever. There was always some kind of big emblem on front of the book stating it was associated with this motion picture or that, or television show. So yeah, Alan Landsberg, big influence. Charles Burlett's, and I have found in my adult life, I have a lot less worry about the Bermuda Triangle than I originally thought I would as a child.
Yeah.
Charles Burlesque just struck fear into my 10-year-old heart.
Yes, I find it terrifying when I first.
But it's all
Word
fascinating.
of them now, but
Yes, it's just also fascinating. But no, I've just been blessed to be able to be involved and meet gentlemen like yourself and these great organizations. I'm going to have to order a Center for Fortean Zoology T-shirt. I've got to get one.
well, the guy who's doing our merch is trying to work out, because at the moment the people he uses don't do the plus size ones. And I said, well, I need a bloody great plus. And so he's going to go and get them. So I will let you know as soon as we can do larger sizes.
Well, yes, I would very much enjoy to have your logo emblazoned on a T-shirt.
I've always been a great fan of your paintings. Were you doing wildlife art before you started doing crypto art?
Oh, yes, yeah, John, my whole life, I would be drawing our family cat. I would come home with books on big cats from the library. So I've always been fascinated with the agility and the physical anatomy of the big cats, just how powerful they are. My grandmother gave me the famous Life magazine from I believe it was 1970, and it had a melanistic leopard, a panther, on the front cover, snarling. Then that magazine it is just emblazoned in my memory. So of course that's one of my favorite cats. And then all the Disney shows that came on Sunday evenings, they had one about a pair of jaguar cubs. And one was black and one was spotted, and kind of followed them through, their whole adolescence in the Amazon. I'm sure, there's a lot of trickery they use, when doing these early, animal documentaries, and they're probably captive animals or in a habitat or something like that. But it was fascinating to me, to watch, to see things like this, and I illustrated as best I could. I almost don't call myself a painter. I mean, when I think of painters, I think of like Guy Koliak and Robert Bateman and these great wildlife artists. And there's so many. I'm on several groups on Facebook with wildlife artists, and I'm like, good God, I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to start over. I need to learn some true technique. But my learning was at college. I went to the Kansas City Art Institute, and the illustration that we would practice was like from the 40s, 50s, 60s type gouache. And you would draw, like you would leave pencil drawings underneath the layer of pigment. And many times the pigment will be lifted out with a clean brush. So you had this kind of cool look. And that's kind of, I'm not an oil painter. I would love to be an oil painter. And of course, I love all the fantasy stuff, like, Frank Frazetta, a huge influence. Just the storytelling involved in his paintings and all the detail. But yes, I would, mainly big cats. I was constantly drawing lions, tigers, leopards. I was the annoying kid at the zoo. If someone came up and called a jaguar a tiger, I would have to say, no, that's a jaguar. It's from South America. No, it's a leopard. No, I'm here to tell you that is a jaguar. That is not a leopard. I knew the rosette, the patterns. The jaguar has the larger spots with a spot inside a spot. And I knew that a black panther was not a black animal. It was actually just a pigmented animal, and there were still spots underneath. So, and that's carried through to recent times. I'm the admin and creator for I have a Facebook group, if anyone's interested. It's called Arkansas Panther Project. And I was asked by Ken Gerard and Lyle Blackburn to kind of put all my reports of Black Panther sightings from the state of Arkansas and Oklahoma. I'm right on the border. So we have just a treasure trove of reports from people, a lot of people that I know. I've got family members that are no nonsense. They think I'm a nut for going on a Bigfoot research or something like that, but they themselves have seen a Black Panther. And he's like, no, I drove up right next to this thing. It was the size of a German Shepherd and had a long tail, and it was black. And, this was in an area just right outside of Fort Smith on the river bottoms. And then just, more and more people just kind of started turning in some of these reports to me. So I was able to compile that, start a group on Facebook, and there's another, like a Arkansas mountain lion group, and they probably got like 6,000 people or something. I don't know, I may have 800 or 900 people in my group, but there's no flame wars. There's maybe one or two guys I have to, tell them, hey, you need to calm down. No one comes here to get picked on or anything. So if you want to stay part of this group, I suggest you calm down. So it's interesting, and you're going to get all walks of life, but we have fun with it. We were at one time planning on doing a documentary about it, and then I think the production team that was working with Ken, they got signed on by National Geographic Television or something, and a big paycheck, so they were no longer interested or had time really to pursue that project. But I still have the group on Facebook. I enjoy that. There's a lot of, I believe, possible solutions or answers, but I don't think there's anything across the board to explain the mystery black cats. There's, of course, ever since, people started watching Joe Exotic, back at the height of the pandemic, that explains a lot. There are people out there that have no business owning an exotic pet. They don't have a proper facility, or they turn it loose, or, back in the 70s, people that, once again, should not have owned an exotic pet probably did. The laws were a lot more lax in the early 70s, and a big cat can live 30 years in the wild, especially here in Arkansas. We've got tons of feral deer, feral hog, deer, rabbit, you name it. I mean, a panther-sized animal, a leopard-sized animal. Of course, I believe there's a breeding population of mountain lions here. But of course, there's never been a melanistic mountain lion documented. You get a small breeding population like the tigers in Similipal, India, that have the pseudomelanistic traits. That's because of a small breeding population.
And then the Zoom call ran out. However, I'm fascinated by all of this, especially the Black Panthers in Arkansas, because about 20 years ago I did some research in Illinois about their Black Panther sightings. So we're going to have Bill back on the show very soon to carry on talking about the Black Panther mystery, and so I can only apologise that we cut him off so abruptly. But now this happens.
If you want to support us and help us make more content like these, please press like, subscribe, follow our Facebook page, and check out our Patreon.
And there's the ghost of Joe Strummer, who's an ever more regular visitor to my little house, will tell you.
Don't forget to ring the notification bell, otherwise you won't be told when the next episode's gonna be.
And that would be an awful pity, wouldn't it?
If you've been affected by any of the topics in today's episode, you can just bugger off, because we don't give a monkeys. Bloody well get a grip. Sort your own bloody problems out rather than ringing up somewhere.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to say a big thank you to my special guest this week, Bill Rebsamen, who is not just a fantastic artist, but He knows an awful lot about wildlife in general, and I've always said that you can't be a cryptozoologist until you're a naturalist first, because you need to know about the way that the world's animals work in order to find the hidden ones. I want to say a big thank you to my producer Louis, who's a dear sweet boy, even though I do spend an awful lot of time taking the mickey out of him. I love the boy dearly, and by the time you're watching this, I believe that he is going to be in, or nearly in, on his way to the United States, where he is on holiday for a protracted period, and so we wish him and everybody else safe journey and make sure everything works out for the best for them. And I want to say a big thank you to Graham Inglis, who looks after me as well as being the Deputy Director of the CFZ, to my nephew David and his brothers, who are helping me sort out my house before it actually gets surveyed by the surveyors, who will hopefully get me a big enough valuation to be able to make it worth my while to be able to get a lifetime mortgage for here, which would make me a very happy man. And I want to say a big thank you to Gwyn Palmer, who does so much more than anybody can even guess at. Thank you, honey pie. I really, truly appreciate everything that you do for me. And now, I'm going to be back on Wednesday. What am I going to be talking about on Wednesday? Don't know. Haven't got there yet. But it will probably be something very interesting, because it usually is. And I'm going to be back next Saturday. What are we talking about next Saturday? I don't know, because I've got 3 different interviews in the pipeline, and I don't know which one I'm going to go with first. You're just going to have to wait and see. But, Mr. McCrillen, are you going to be watching the show next week, Mr. McCrillen? Because if you are watching the show, and I'm here doing the live chat and the notifications and all the other odds and sods that I do, then no doubt I'll be seeing you.